that. All right, let's head into the 1, 2, 3 inning. The first out. Right now, Dalton, it is extremely interesting in baseball because no division seems to be closed out, right? The Orioles and Yankees right now are tied for first in the AL East. The Guardians, with just as good as the Guardians have been, only a 4.5 game lead over the Twins and a 5-game lead over the Royals in the AL Central. The Mariners and Astros separated by just a game in the AL West. The Phillies right now with a 6-game lead over the Braves. They right now have they're tied for the lead for the biggest separation in their division. Phillies right now over the Braves with a 6-game lead in that division. The Brewers with a 6-game lead over the Pirates and the Cardinals in the NL Central. And then the Dodgers right now with a 4.5-game lead over the Padres, a 5-game lead over the Diamondbacks in that division as well. We're not seeing much separation. There really isn't like a clear-cut winner in any division right now. I mean, I think we can kind of come to a conclusion of like, okay, like we think that the Phillies are the best team in the East. We think that as of right now, like we think that the Guardians are the best team in the Central. Like we think those things. But what are we thinking? What are we feeling the least confident in? How do you see this all playing out?
So I think it's really fascinating because what got me thinking about this earlier today is like we're in August and nobody has 70 wins yet. Like,
yeah,
there's nobody more than 23 games over 500 at this point in the season. That's pretty rare. Like, and I don't have the numbers in front of me on that, but like at this point in the season, you should be seeing a team out there that's like 70-40. Like that's not that crazy at all. And so the fact that like right now, 23 games over 500 gives the Guardians the best record in baseball speaks to like a pretty tightly packed universe in baseball, with the exception of the Chicago White Sox and maybe a couple others. But like I think it means that we're going to have some chaos heading down the stretch here. I talked about how the NL West, I think, is more up for grabs than Dodger fans want to admit. I think the same thing in the NL Central. Like, I'll talk about Milwaukee a lot more when we get to the trade deadline stuff, but like they didn't do a whole lot. And Pittsburgh and St. Louis both got at least a little bit better. Like, that division's not wrapped up at all. I mean, even the Cubs and Reds are only 6.5 out. Like, that division could still really go any direction. Obviously the AL East is tightly packed. Guardians have looked like the best team in baseball, but like that doesn't get you more than a 5-game lead over either of the two teams behind you. Yeah. Like, God forbid that Cleveland goes cold at some point. Like, it's really why. Then obviously Seattle and Houston still tight. It's funny. Houston's a team that's a game behind right now. I feel better about Houston pulling away than I do in some ways about like Milwaukee, or than I do about Cleveland to a degree. So, I think it's going to make for a really, really fun finish. And I think that like even like the Phillies, like I'm not going to assume that the Phillies are going to run away with this thing. Like if they get hit with a couple more injuries and they go cold, like Atlanta's still a talented ball club. Like you never know. So it's going to make for a ton of fun, because I think usually at this point we've got two divisions by now that are usually like double digits.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think you're right about that. I mean, the fact that, so I was talking about this before with my dad, actually. And he was saying that like the fact that the Guardians have the best record in baseball is stunning. Right? Yeah. Like they're 67-44. Like they're very clearly good at this point. But like I was looking at this before and I was saying like, okay, the Guardians have the best record in baseball. They've kind of been touted as the team for a while that's had the best record in baseball. They've been the number 1 seed in the American League for how long now? And they have a 4.5 game lead in their division. And it's not like Minnesota's a world beater. Like Minnesota's a good ball club. Kansas City's a fairly good ball club. But like they're not like you look at the top of the AL East and you're thinking, okay, Baltimore and the Yankees are both like, all right, they can both be top tier, really fucking good at the top of their. They can both dominate the league at any point in time. I don't think anybody feels that way about the Twins, right? And we're talking about like the Guardians. The Guardians, I don't think we even feel that way about, but they have the best record in baseball, and now Twins and the Royals are like creeping up. Like that's weird to me.
Yeah.
It's really something else. And as
I mean,
far
like,
as like,
I looked at the last 2 years just for reference.
Mhm.
Last year we had 2 teams at 70 wins on August 5th, and we had one division that was more than the Braves had an 11.5 game lead over Philadelphia. 2 years ago on August 5th, we had 4 divisions with greater than a 10-game gap, and we had Yankees, Houston, and Dodgers all over 70 wins. Like it's a real thing. Like nobody's really running away with anything this year.
No, there's a lot of and you kind of said it before. There's a lot of middle of the road in the league right now. Like there's a lot of not forget about not dominant, right? Forget about like not top tier. There's like 20 teams that are pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, you know, right, exactly. So, you know, outside of the White Sox and like the A's and the Marlins and the Rockies, maybe, like the rest of the league's pretty decent. Like the Angels, you could probably throw in that category too. Yeah. But like the rest of the league's pretty decent. Like the Toronto Blue Jays, like they're 10 games under 500. They're not that good, right? But they're in last place in the AL East. Like the rest of the AL East is over 500. Like that's pretty wild. Yeah. It's something to me. Listen, you and I said beginning of the season that the NL Central we kind of thought was going to be a crapshoot, right? Because you're like, okay, like yeah, we think the Cubs are the best team in the league. We both ended up being wrong on that, right? Yeah. But like the Cubs, the Reds, the Cardinals, the Brewers are the Brewers. They figure out how to win whenever. But like this is an entire division that's separated by 9 games. And we thought a couple of weeks ago that the Cubs, who were in last place, they're not in last place anymore. They're a half game ahead of last place in that division. We thought the Cubs had a real shot at coming back and winning that division because the Brewers were coming down fast. So it's unbelievable.
But Mike, the thing is, I still kind of feel that way. You know what I mean? Like, okay, let me paint you a picture, right? Because right now the Reds are in last place and they're 6.5 games out. Let's say Hunter Green starts pitching his face off.
Yeah.
Andrew Abbott looks like, prime Cliff Lee for a little bit. Like,
yeah, right.
You start getting some good starts out of the Red starters. Their young guys get hot again. Like, I'm not saying that they have a real shot, but like it would not be that insane. Like, I'll put it this way: if they have a good week and Milwaukee has a bad week, that 6.5 games could turn into 3.5, and we're having a whole different conversation.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We're not that far off from like the last place team in that division competing for it. So
yeah.
It's going to make for a lot of fun.
It is. And I genuinely kind of feel at the moment right now that the Brewers are going to lose that division. Like I have like a feeling that somebody is going to creep up, and I have a feeling it's going to be St. Louis. Like that's just my gut feeling. I don't want to like spoil anything from any of my lists or anything, but I think the Cardinals did pretty good at the deadline, and like the Brewers didn't do very well at the deadline. So I'm looking at 2 teams, and if you put the Cardinals and you put the Brewers right here and right here, like I don't know, I think the Cardinals are a better baseball team right now. I do. Like I'm not even certain that the Brewers are better than Pittsburgh. Like I don't feel that way. You know what I mean? Like give me a 4-game series, you give me a playoff series between those 2 teams, and I think I'm torn.
I think I'd lean Pittsburgh, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, pitching staff, I would say, 100%. But yes, but you see what I mean? Like, there's not like this grand separation, despite a 6-game lead. It's just not comfortable.
Yeah,
for them. So, real interesting stuff. It's something really interesting to bring up. The fact that the best record in baseball is not at 70 wins.